Sonic
Lab TV.
Hi, I'm Steve Evans and I'm here with Nick from Sonic State today on behalf of Sonic Lab, having a look at the X-Patch from SSL. What it is, it's a 16 in and 16 out digitally controlled analog patch bay. And I can control it from my computer over here or my computer over there, or in fact any computer that's hooked up on my network. And I can even actually, which I'll show you later, carry my iPhone around the studio with me and use that to control it too, which is a little perk that I didn't even know was there. Traditionally, everything that's in the studio has inputs and outputs, and these are all represented on the patch bay, and so in good old telephone exchange fashion, you can connect supposedly anything to anything else, you know, without any real problem. So a patch bay like that's fine for all your lovely balanced analog gear, but I had a whole load of stuff like this sat around that was really not being used to its full potential. I tried to incorporate it into my studio, and I had a kind of big rack over there with a jack panel bay, and everything was represented on that. But no matter how hard I tried, you know, whenever I ended up trying to use it in anger, something would have been disconnected last week. There'd be a level mismatch, there'd be a hum, you know, and it just was more problematical than it should have been. So when I heard about the X-Patch, I thought, well, this could well be the solution to that, because it means I can, in theory, plumb everything in permanently, nicely, properly wired, and just leave it, and not have to worry about reconnecting things every time I wanted to do something. On the back of this is 4 25-pin D connectors. So you've got to be prepared, really. So I had 4 you know, D sub leads ordered ready when that arrived, and really there's nothing too complicated to do. I could handle it myself. I didn't need a proper pro to come in. I had to learn how to just make an unbalanced connection meet a balanced connection, which is quite an easy thing to do with a soldering iron. I soldered a few plugs. You know, by the time I'd done 10 or 12, I got quite good at it, and it works fine now. Well, we probably just should back up a little bit here and have a look at the setup page. And what you can see here is a little representation of the inputs and outputs that are going to be connected. There's a little dot matrix in the middle there, and where you've got 3 options: unlink, device, or insert. All the gear you're going to connect falls into one of those 3 categories. I'm using one insert from Pro Tools at the moment. If you label it an insert, X-Patch knows logically how to handle the routing. That will make more sense a little bit later when we have a look at it in action. And unlink just means I can just I'm free to connect anything to anything else. It sounds a little bit complicated, but it's actually quite straightforward when you get into it.
I guess the rule, it applies certain rules so you don't get feedback loops. And
yeah, that's right, and it stops you attempting to use the same thing twice in setups, because you can quite easily forget what you've done. So it actually helps you out quite a lot. If you think how useful a patch bay is, then imagine a patch bay that's recallable over MIDI or over Ethernet and editable on the screen, and you know you've got the essence of the X-Patch right there. Let's say, for example, I want to record this synth straight into Pro Tools. It's connected to the X-Patch, so I have an insert return here, Pro Tools insert return, which I've set up.
so that's like your recording part, right?
Yeah, I'm using that as input 3 for my Pro Tools. So if I go here, I can look at sources, I can go down my list of sources and say, right, let's connect MS10 number 1. And there it is. You know, that's instantly saved me 2 minutes of what would have been mucking around before with leads and that kind of stuff. And that's, you know, all these minutes add up. And I suppose now might be a good chance to show you a little whizzy thing, because SSL actually make a little app for the iPhone, which is great, which I would imagine at some stage will port to the iPad as well, in which case we might get the full interface. What we have here is a list of the presets. So if I go to preset MS10.1, there it is, but if I decide I want to use preset MS10.2, I can just do that. I mean, so if I've got gear over here, I can kind of trundle over here and go, yeah, I want to use my kind of, you know, electric sitar, and I can put it in and and there it'll be.
Oh, yeah,
so that's a nice little fun thing.
Can you use it for control voltage and stuff? So you could use it in a big modular system.
No, that would be great. That would be great, but it won't accept control voltages in the same way that it won't deal with phantom power. So, for example, there are a couple of inputs that are paralleled that are represented on the front here. We've got some combi inputs and XLR outputs. What I can't do is plug in a microphone that needs phantom power to the front, call up the preamp, and then send phantom power via the X patch to that. It won't handle it. Which is in a perfect world it would. And yeah, maybe in a future incarnation it might happen, because to be able to kind of control the routing of CVs to modular synth and things would be
awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Woohoo! Great. Now see, that's the Casio going through the guitar pedals, going through my guitar amp, which is decoupled from the speaker, going through a speaker simulator, which is going back through the whammy pedal. So that's quite a complex chain of events that's actually made really easy.
Is that something you use a lot then?
It is.
Almost every day.
Almost every day. Who wouldn't? It doesn't do parallels. It doesn't do what they call mults. So I can't take one guitar signal and send it to 4 different processors at the same time, going to 4 different outputs, which again, SSL would be really great if we could. It's not impossible to do. I guess it would just make it more expensive. But what I love about this is that I can incorporate my guitar amp down here into proceedings as well, because that was always a snore, having to work out how to go out of Pro Tools into a guitar amp, into your speaker simulator back in. It was never as quick as you'd want it to be, but with this, it's all in place. So I can call up a preset called guitar pedals amp.
Cool. Nice guitar, Steve. Just tell me, what is that?
Yeah, the robot. With my how do you play your songs gaffer tape on it. This is great, because it's let's get rid of that. It tunes itself. Look at this. Listen to this. Have you ever heard an open C sound that good on a guitar? You can also save device chains as well. For example, Sherman and whammy, you can save that as a little combo, because they're both devices, and then if you wanted to, you could just quite easily drop a chain in as if it was one device, so it speeds the process up. We've looked at how it's useful in just creating sound sources for recording for our sessions, but the brilliant thing is that it works really well as an insert, and I have a single Pro Tools insert set up. So if I've got a little boombox here, if I go to my hardware inserts and select my mono insert, which is the only one I have set up at the moment, that is now inserted that world behind us. So I can go to Pro Tools insert return 1, and let's put a chain in. Let's put the Sherman whammy chain in there. Chain. Sherman whammy. So the pros for me are that all of my favourite bits of gear are available, and I love using those bits of gear because they don't often repeat themselves. I'm always getting new sounds, I'm always finding new things. I'm working in a hurry, so I need to be able to access them quickly. Otherwise I've got to fall back on the same old plugins, and plugins definitely do repeat themselves, and I get bored quite quickly. So if you've got outboard synths, outboard manglers and processors, it's a really good way of very quickly making them part of your workflow. And if you're working to deadlines, it's a horrible cliche, but time is money, and sometimes you do only have an hour to do something, and that will make you decide not to use something if it's going to be a hassle. So it's great for that. On the downside, it is expensive, and it is a bit of a headache to install. You're going to have to use a couple of days downtime to do it in, and you probably might need a little bit of help with the wiring, but all the information you need is available on the SSL site and in the manual. I managed to do it myself, and I'm no great technical bod, so there's hope for all of us. On the whole, it's really made my life a lot easier. I hoped it would, and it has, and I can actually see a use for 2 or 3 of them in my studio, but I'm going to have to save up a bit more money before I can get them.